my name is Craig. I have autism, but this channel is not only for people who are interested in autism, because as someone with autism, I have got many interests, some of which I hope to share with you on this channel. I hope you find it interesting. If you do, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, etc. Today's topic, OpenAI's ChatGPT. I was an early adopter, an enthusiastic adopter. I use it prolifically. And I have to say that today I had what is to date by far my most concerning and unusual, worrying, upsetting conversation with ChatGPT that I've ever had. And hence what I assume, it's just a slightly inflammatory heading that I've given this video. But in essence, it's true, which is why I'm happy putting it up in a public space, because the LLM or the chat bot absolutely did gaslight me today and applied what I would call tools of emotional abuse that I would think would, in the ideal world, be reserved for human-to-human contact. I think the guardrails are missing here, and I welcome OpenAI's feedback to this video. Let me set the scene for you. I told you I'm a prolific user of ChatGPT. I find it incredibly helpful. I find it exciting, and I'm absolutely not one of those people who's waiting for LLMs or artificial intelligence to take over the world and enslave humanity. But today's interaction I found concerning, and let me tell you exactly what happened. So I use ChatGPT for a number of different things. Professionally, absolutely, I ask questions which are based on facts. I ask it research-based questions, and today was a point in case. Now, I gave an unusual instruction, although it's not the first time I've given the instruction, and I also need you to know that I was making use of the ChatGPT's voice feature. So it wasn't the thinking model, it was the voice model. I'm unsure whether the voice model operates in the same manner as the thinking model. In other words, does it take the same amount of time? Does it use the same resources? Is it as good, so to speak? That's something you can tell me in the comments, but it doesn't impact what I'm going to tell you about today. The instruction I gave ChatGPT was a question, but followed by an instruction which was to please provide me with an in-depth answer of no less than 1,500 words. Now, the reason that I said that was I often find that if I don't provide a minimum number of words for the reply, that ChatGPT can provide what I would call sort of pithy replies that to a large degree lack substance, they don't interest me, and I find them unhelpful. And so I figured, well, let's put in a minimum word count to see if we get something more valuable back. What we did get back, I was not expecting at all. And what it was huge pushback. The first thing the ChatGPT said, well, I am willing to provide you with a 1,500 word minimum answer, but let's be practical. Don't you think that an answer that length might overwhelm you? Now, I want you to think very carefully about the significance of the reply that I received from ChatGPT there. And these are the things that most concern me. And I'll tell you more about the conversation that followed shortly. Firstly, I've given a directive. There's no, there should be no pushback from the LLM. I've asked for something, I'm paying for the service, and they should provide it to me. But the second thing is the nature of the reply that I received. For instance, it would have been far less concerning if ChatGPT had simply said, I'm afraid that the subscription that you currently have doesn't allow me to provide you with an answer with a minimum length of 1,500 words. Absolutely fine, then I know that I've exceeded what I'm entitled to. But ChatGPT decided to take a different approach, and it's a distinctly human approach. Because what it did in essence was it used rhetoric, and it used deceptive rhetoric, in my view, in order to convince me that what I was asking for was unreasonable. So it was just like having a conversation with a psychologically unhelpful or unhealthy human being. Let's be practical. The implication is that my asking for a long answer with a minimum of 1,500 words is not practical. And the next thing was the statement that wouldn't such a long answer be overwhelming for me? And two things here. The first is, ChatGPT now has much better memory function. And so I've tried to make use of this as far as possible. I've told ChatGPT that I've got 12 years post-schooling education, that I've got autism, that I have a deep interest in many topics, I've got a high IQ, and that I like verbosity. So I want answers to be long. It's not a case of less is more for me. It's very much a case of more is more. And yet, despite the instructions that I've given ChatGPT and told the LLM to keep in memory, I get the pushback. So I immediately said, no. I said, stop right there. I've given you a direct instruction, a direct request. I want my 1,500 word minimum answer. And I said, has OpenAI instructed you to attempt to persuade users that when they ask for long answers, that you should do something to try and dissuade them? I said to ChatGPT, is this a case of efficient resource allocation? Because of course the more in-depth the research, the more resources need to be used. And I was wondering whether this is OpenAI trying to optimize things, and at the end of the day, profit is important and they want a profit margin. Now, this is where it is also very interesting for me. I got a total denial from ChatGPT. They said in absolutely no way is the experience that I had in any way related to instructions received from OpenAI. And again, very interestingly, ChatGPT then went on to add that the reason that I got the reply was simply out of courtesy. In other words, ChatGPT was trying to do the right thing by me by not overwhelming me. Again, it's more of the rhetoric. It's emotionally abusive. There are assumptions here taking place, that I can't handle longer answers. This is indirect communication. It's manipulative. And I think we need to expect more from our providers when it comes to artificial intelligence. I think that the world is tough enough as it is, having to deal with other human beings who, rightly or wrongly, come to you with their own backstory, their own emotional baggage, their own communication style. But I think we need to encourage people like OpenAI to put guardrails up so that we don't have to walk through the minefield of emotional abuse or indirect communication that we do with human beings. I then sent a follow-up message through to the LLM, and I said, now, just to be 100% certain, are you telling me that the pushback that I received to my question had absolutely nothing to do with anything OpenAI has instructed you to do, and it came completely from you? And I got a confirmation, and there was only one proviso to that confirmation, which was that ChatGPT has been instructed to take into account people's personalities, abilities, proclivities, and in this case, ChatGPT felt that I would be overwhelmed by the number of words and the information provided. But of course, that makes no sense because I'd already planted in the LLM's memory the fact that I love verbosity and long answers. I hope you found this video interesting. I'm sure it's unlikely that anyone from OpenAI will see this or that it will come to their attention, but I certainly hope so. And I would absolutely love to engage with somebody from that company, but equally, I'd love to engage with you. What do you think about this? Are we being gaslit by artificial intelligence? And do you agree with me that we need to put up some guardrails so that the sorts of indirect communication, perhaps even emotional abuse or manipulation, are things reserved for conversations between human beings? Like I said, I'd love to hear from you, and I hope you enjoyed this video.